Hi to everybody, and I welcome you all to today's lecture on meat and fish curing part 1. In this lecture, I'll be talking about the different curing ingredients that is used in the meat and fish. So what is basically curing? Curing is addition of salt, nitrites or nitrates, sometimes sugar, to meat for the purpose of preservation, flavor enhancement or color developments. So during the curing, we will be adding nitrites, nitrates, salt, sugar and other ingredients for the purpose of flavor enhancement, color development and preservation. So when you take curing ingredients, basically the curing ingredients are divided into two. The first is basic curing ingredients and the curing adjuvants. The basic curing ingredients include salt, nitrites or nitrates and sugar, and the curing adjuvants include the polyphosphates, sodium ascorbates and erythrobates, MSG, hydrolyzed vegetable protein, spices, alpha tocopherols and many other components are also added as a curing adjuvants. So what is the purpose of curing? So basically we do curing for flavor developments and for color developments. Actually the curing was started around 5,000 years back, and curing was in the initial years the curing was done for preservation. But after the invention of the cold method of preservation or the cold system or the cold chain, the curing was basically done for flavor and color developments. So in the modern industrial system, the curing is basically done for flavor and color development. It is not basically done for preservation. But the curing ingredients also have some preservative effects. It also helps to increasing the yield. It improves the juiciness, flavor of the product. It helps to maintain the cured color. So today curing is performed more for flavor and color development than for preservations. So let's start with the first curing ingredients, that is salt. Basically why we add salt as a curing ingredients is to develop the flavor. So salt normally we can add 0.8 to 1.5% as a curing ingredients. So in some books you can see it's going up to 2 or 2.2% like. But as for my experience, we generally add as a curing ingredients in the meat products around 0.8, 0.9, 1 or 1.5, 1.1%. That gives acceptable flavor. And it also has a functional properties like it help in the extraction of the myofibrillar proteins. So if you want to extract the myofibrillar proteins, that is actin, myosin or actomyosin, if you want to extract this myofibrillar proteins, especially when you want to develop the emulsion based products, for that the salt is required, and we require the ionic strength of minimum 0.5. Then only we can extract this myofibrillar proteins, because this myofibrillar proteins are salt soluble, and then only we can extract the myofibrillar proteins which act as an emulsifier in the emulsion type of meat products. So for the extraction of the myofibrillar proteins, again salt is required. To some extent, since the quantity of salt that we add is not too much in the modern curing system, it doesn't have much preservative effect, but it also has a preservative effect. It is brought about by the plasmolysis of the cell. So it helps in removing of the water from the cells, and it helps in the preservation also. So there are different types of salts that is available. For any food grade salt that we use, that is, it is generally prepared by the vacuum evaporation of the salt brine. So the commercial salt or the commercial food grade salt is prepared by the vacuum evaporation of the salt brines, and it should have a minimum purity of 99% of sodium chloride. Sometimes we can also use the what you call as a rock salt or the sea salt or solar salt. Okay, and it requires purity of 97.5% minimum sodium chloride. Okay, then only we can use it as a or for the food application we can use the salt. Whereas in the modern industry, in the modern system, the people are very much health conscious and they want the food with the low sodium, or the salt content should be less. So the salt taste is brought about by the chloride that is present in the sodium chloride, and the sodium, if you take in too much, it will increase the blood pressure. So to reduce that one, now they are going with what is called as a light salt, where they will be replacing the sodium with potassium or magnesium. So if you take the different companies are producing in the different formulations where they try to reduce the sodium level in the salt, but at the same time they are trying to maintain the salt flavor. So the light salt, the Morton light salt, they have reduced 50% of the sodium with the potassium chloride. So light salts, normally we say that 50% sodium chloride and 50% potassium chloride, and the best combination that we've seen is 60% sodium chloride and 40% potassium chloride. Why, you may ask me, why then you cannot increase the potassium? If you increase above 50%, it gives a bitter taste to the salt. That is why we limit to 50%. Normally 60% sodium chloride and 40% potassium chloride we can use, or sometimes they go with the different salts like magnesium chloride. Even the Tata Light salt, there is a 15% reduction in the sodium. So if we want to develop a low salt product or low sodium content product, then we can go with the addition of this light salts. Coming to the sugar, sugar basically we add for flavor developments, and it reduces the harsh effect of the salt. So during the curing, the basic curing ingredient salt is generally added, and you know that if the salt will give a harsh taste or the harsh effect. Like, to reduce that harsh effect, we add sugar. The sugar will also have some preservatives effect. However, in the modern curing system, the quantity of sugar that we add is very little, so it don't have much influence in the preservations. But sugar can also used as a preservative. You know that in the jams, in the squashes, we'll be adding the sugar as a preservative. But if you compare with that of the salt, the effect of the sugar to be equal to that of the salt, we should add almost 6 times more, 6 times of that of the salt. Okay, so for example, if you say 5 grams of salt is bringing some antimicrobial effect, almost 30 grams we have to add the sugar to get the same effect. So the sugar we should add in large quantity if you are using it for the preservative purpose. But in the modern curing system, we are not adding sugar as a preservatives. We are just adding sugar to bring the flavor development and reduce the harsh effect of the salt. The sugar is also act as a source of energy for the bacteria that help in conversion of the nitrate to nitrite. It also lower the acidity of the cure. So what form of sugar we can add? We can add sugar in various forms like sucrose, dextrose, corn syrups, high fructose corn syrups. Like, normally we'll be adding the sucrose, dextrose and corn syrup solids. What is sucrose? Sucrose means the sugar that is obtained from the cane sugar or the sugar beet or the beet sugar, that is called a sucrose, and it will contain to fructose and glucose also. The dextrose is a more refined corn sugar without the bad fructose. When you compare the sweetness with that of the sucrose, it has only 1/3 sweetness compared to that of sucrose. So dextrose is also added in the curing. And we have the corn syrup solids. So this corn syrup solid is also prepared from the corn sugar only. They dehydrate it and see that the moisture content is reduced to less than 10%. There is also high fructose corn syrup. This is not normally added in the curing industry. It will have more of fructose, and this is basically used in certain bakery industries or beverages. In such types of industries, they will be using this high fructose corn syrup. So we can go with the dextrose or corn syrup solids or sucrose, table sugar. We can use in the curing industries for meat and fish products. So when the meat, you must have observed that when you fry the meat or grill the meat, the color of the meat is changing, the flavor of the meat is changing with different stages of cooking. Why it is occurring? It is because of a particular reaction called as Maillard reactions. Why it is called as Maillard reaction? Because it was found by a scientist, Louis Maillard. So it is called as a Maillard reaction. It is a non-enzymatic reactions. So what is happening in the Maillard reactions? So the aldose group or the carboxyl group, the aldose groups or the carboxyl groups that is present in the sugar or the carbohydrates of the food will react with the amino groups or the amine group. So amino groups, you know that meat or the fish will be containing lot of proteins, so they will be reacting with this carboxyl group or the aldose groups reacts with the amino groups or the amines, the proteins or the nitrogenous substance that is present in the food, and they undergo what is called as the Schiff-based reactions. And then they undergo the amidoric rearrangements. Amidoric rearrangements will be formed, and during the dehydration processes, or when you fry it or grilling it, there will be dehydration, there will be loss of moisture will be taking place, and under that conditions it forms what you call as hydroxymethyl furfuryls or furfuryl compounds, which will undergo further heating, it will undergo further drying, it will undergo what you call as aldol condensation, and it forms melanoidins. This melanoidins will give the brown color or different aromas will be formed. So this is what happening in the Maillard reaction. Although the exact mechanisms of non-enzymatic browning is not fully known till now, this is how it is assumed. This is how the reaction is taking place. That is, carboxyl group reacts with the amino groups of the protein, and it undergoes what you call Schiff-based rearrangements, and it goes further with high temperatures. It goes with amidoric rearrangements, that is furfuryl and hydroxyfurfuryl compounds will be formed, and further dehydrations, it undergoes what you call as aldol condensation, and it forms what you call as melanoidins. This melanoidins produce the brown color, and the different flavors or the aromas are formed due to the Maillard reaction. So what are the factors that influence the Maillard reactions? So the intensity of the Maillard reactions depends upon various factors. One is its high temperature. The high temperature means cooking at more than 140 degrees centigrade, and this reaction intensity is high at high pH and lower moisture or lower water activity content, we can say. Okay, so this is seen in during the processing like frying, grilling, roasting, in such oven frying, in such methods of cooking, we can come across this types of changes, or the intensity is more in the meat products or in the fish products or in the food products which are dried, and in the intermediate moisture foods, especially which have the water activity between 0.5 to 0.8. So most of the time the questions come whether it is desirable change or undesirable change. It all depends upon the intensity. So to what intensity this Maillard reaction has taken place. To some extent it is desirable, so it gives a beautiful aromas and it gives a golden brown colors. Like this you will get a beautiful colors, okay, which is very attractive for the consumers. But if the intensity goes beyond certain limit, what happens is it gives the darkness to the product. Okay, it becomes more dark or blackish in color. Sometimes it gives off flavor or the off odors, we can say the off odor developments will be there. And there are loss of certain amino acids, especially most of the studies shows that there is a much loss of lysine. And there are also studies shows that there is a formation of acrylamides during this high intensity Maillard reactions. So, and it is considered as a probable carcinogens by the international agencies for research on cancer. So these are the advantages. The advantages is it gives a beautiful aroma, it gives a beautiful golden brown color for the product. But the disadvantages is when the intensity is high, or if you are doing too much of grilling or frying or roasting, what happens is it gives to more darkness for the product, which is not attractive. It gives off flavor, there will be loss of nutrition, and there are also claimed that there is a formation of acrylamides which are considered as a probable carcinogens. So we have to see that it is better not to over fry the meat and the fish. Okay, over fry or over grilling should not be done. So that will affect the nutritional quality and it will affect your health also. So this is the problem with a high intensity of Maillard reaction. So coming to the next basic curing ingredient, that is nitrites or nitrates. So these are also called as potassium nitrate, which is called as the saltpeter or the genuine saltpeter. Genuine nitrate, and the sodium nitrate is called as the chili saltpeter. See, this was they started using around 5,000 years back. This saltpeters or the nitrates where they were used, actually it was an impurity that is found in the salt. So, and they found that when they added the salt, there's a change in the color of the meat. It was giving some pink color or a reddish pink color was there. So then they came to know that it is because of the nitrites or the nitrates that is present in the salt, it's giving this color. So why the nitrites or nitrates is basically added? Nitrites or nitrates is basically added to give a beautiful pink color or the cured color, one thing. Another thing, it produces a cured flavor. This cured flavor is due to the compound that is formed on addition of this nitrites or nitrate is benzonitrite and phenyl acetone nitrite. Okay, I'll repeat, it is because of the formation of the benzonitrate and phenyl acetone nitrite, how it is formed. So when you add the nitrites as a curing ingredients, it can react with the fat that is present in the meat. So it forms a compound called as benzonitrile and phenyl acetone nitrite. So if you want to have a beautiful cured flavor, the meat or the food material that to which we are adding this nitrates or nitrate should contain the fat. Then only we will get this benzonitrile and phenyl acetone nitrate will be formed, and along with that there are also other compounds like ketones, aldehydes and sulfur compounds are also formed. But basically the benzonitrate and phenyl acetone nitrates are the two compounds that gives this cured flavor. So normally we do curing for the pork. The reason is that it will contain, the meat will contain the flavor, meat will contain the fat, so the nitrate can react with this fat and they can form the benzonitrile and phenyl acetone nitrate. And another reason why we generally select the fatty meat or the meat that should contain to some extent the fat is that because the curing also brings dryness, so that it can lose the juiciness. To maintain the juiciness also, the meat should contain the fat, because you know that fat will increase your salivations and help to maintain the juiciness of the product. Next is also help to incubate the spoilage and food poisoning organisms, especially the Clostridium. It will be able to destroy the Clostridium when you add the nitrites or nitrate, and it also help to prevent the rancidity or the warmed or flavors. So these are the E numbers that is you must have observed in the packaging labeling. These E numbers are used for sodium nitrates and potassium nitrates, nitrite and potassium nitrite. So how the cured color is formed? When you add the nitrate, the first step is that the nitrate should be get converted into nitrite. So when we'll add nitrate and when we'll add nitrite, so we can add curing ingredients nitrate or nitrite. So if you want to develop the color immediately, then we will be adding the nitrate. Suppose you are preparing a sausage and the color should be developed immediately. In that case, we add nitrate. In some cases, we'll be going with a combination of nitrates and nitrates. If you want to develop the color not so fast, then we'll be adding the nitrate and nitrate. In some cases, we'll go only with the addition of nitrate, especially in the case of fermented meat products. So in the fermented meat products, we'll be keeping in the fermenting room or the ripening room for a long durations. So at that point or in that room, the color is not much important. But when you are exposing or when you are comes to the retail market, the color is important. So in that case, what we do is we add the nitrates, because for the conversion of nitrate to nitrate, it will take time. So by the time it comes to the consumer, the color development will be there. But in the initial itself, if you are adding the nitrates, means because it will form the color which will fade due to when you expose to the oxygens or when you expose to the light. So that in that cases, we will be adding the nitrate. So if you want to maintain the color or if you want to develop the color very slowly, then we add the nitrate. If you want to develop the color immediately, then we will be adding the nitrite. So let's see the reaction, what is happening. So when you add the nitrate will be get converted into nitrites. How it is occurring? It is brought about by certain microorganism that is naturally present in the environment, like Micrococcus auranticus and certain species of Lactobacillus and Staphylococcus. Okay, so this species will help in the conversion of nitrate to nitrate. So if you add the sugar, this sugar will act as a energy source for this microbes, and they also help in fastening the conversion of this nitrate to nitrite. Then this nitrite will be converted into nitrous acid, HNO2. And the nitrous acid will be converted into nitric oxide, and the myoglobin can combine with this nitric oxide to form nitric oxide myoglobin, which gives the unstable bright red color. So this nitrates is converted into nitrites. The nitrites will be converted into nitrous acids, and the nitrous acids will be converted into nitric oxides, and the nitric oxide can combine with myoglobin, or rather myoglobin will combine with nitric oxide, and it forms nitric oxide myoglobin, which gives the bright red color for the meat. Upon eating, it forms the stable nitrosyl hemochromogen, that is the pink color. So this is the pink color, which is a desirable pink color for the cured meat. So why this color is important? See, for example, if you are not adding this nitrites and nitrate, when you cook it out, it gives a brown color which is not attractive. But when you add this nitrates or nitrates in the meat, what happens? It gives the stable pink color, that is nitroso hemochromogen. Okay, this will be very attractive. So that is why we had this nitrates or nitrate for color developments. So how much quantity of nitrate is required? For color formation, if you had only 15 to 50 ppm, that is milligram per kg, is required for the color developments. So again, the color developments depends upon how much quantity of myoglobin is present. So in the red meat, the color formation will be more prominent. In the white meat, the color formation will be less prominent. So it is normally added in the red meats for the color developments, but higher concentration is required to maintain the color. And for antibacterial, especially against the Clostridium, the residual nitrate. The residual nitrate means the nitrate that is left in the meat is 40 to 80 ppm, that is milligram per kg. If you should add when you want to bring anti-clostridial effect. So in most of the canned products, we'll be adding this nitrites or nitrates because you know that in the canned products or the retort products, there's an anaerobic conditions, and there's a chance for Clostridium to exist. Okay, to prevent that only and to bring the anti-clostridial effect, these nitrites or nitrates are added. Especially the nitrites will be added in the canned cured products also, for which we require around 40 to 80 ppm. How the anti-clostridial effect is brought, or what is the mechanism how this nitrates will bring the anti-clostridial effect? See, what happens is once you add the nitrite, it interferes with the iron sulfur complex that is present in the microbial bodies or the microbial cells to form iron nitrosyl complex. The iron it interferes with the iron sulfur complex to form iron nitrosyl complex. This iron nitrosyl complex will destroy the ferredoxin enzymes. So what is the use of ferredoxin enzymes in the bacterial cell? This ferredoxin enzymes is the one which help in the formation of ATP. Once this ferredoxin enzyme is destroyed, what happens is it will not able to produce the ATP from the pyruvates. So the microbes will start dying. This is the mechanism or anti-clostridial mechanism by the nitrite. So this is the colony you can see. Just for your knowledge, I am putting here. This is a colony you can see. Generally we use the blood agar. So it is a gram-positive bacteria, rod-shaped, the spore formers. So you can see a large transparent colonies with irregular boundaries. So you can have the irregular boundaries. So this is a typical colony of Clostridium, and we'll be using the enriching media, Roberts Cook media, then it will be cultured in the blood agar media, and we get a colony like this. So what is the drawbacks of adding the nitrites is nitrosamines. So nitrosamines may be formed. So these nitrosamines are considered as carcinogens. So how these nitrosamines are formed? So we have seen that when you add the nitrite will be converted into nitrous acids, and the nitrous acids will be converted into nitric oxide. So the nitrous acids that is formed during the curing, when it reacts with a dimethylamine, it's a secondary amines, and it is naturally present in the meat. So when you are subject to a high temperature, this dimethylamines are formed due to the breakdowns of the proteins, and this nitrous acids reacts with the dimethylamines and it forms dimethyl nitrosamines. These dimethyl nitrosamines are considered as carcinogens, mutagenic and teratogenic. So that is the problem with addition of nitrites or the nitrates. So the two dimethylamines that is formed, or nitrosamines that is formed, are N-nitrosopyrrolidine, which is seen during the frying of the bacon, and N-nitrosodimethylamine. So these are the two compounds which are considered as carcinogens, and it is mainly seen in the when you are subjecting the product to the high temperature, because when you subject the product to high temperature like grilling or frying, what happens is the protein breakdown will be there, and dimethylamines will be formed, that is the secondary amines, and this nitrous acids can react with this dimethylamines and it forms dimethyl nitrosamines, which are carcinogenic. And the two compound that is important is N-nitrosopyrrolidine, that is seen mainly during the frying of the bacon. You know that bacons are gently fried, so we are subjecting to high temperature, so there is a chance for nitrosamines formation. And another compound that is formed is N-nitrosodimethylamine. So and these are also liver toxic. So we have to see that this dimethyl nitrosamines is not formed. How it can be prevented, we will be seeing in the coming slides. So how to reduce the nitrosamine formation? So when you add the sodium ascorbates, that is occurring accelerators, which we are going to discuss, or antioxidants, this sodium ascorbates or erythrobates or alpha tocopherol, if you add such compounds, what happens is it helps in fast conversion of nitrite to nitric oxide. So the intermediate nitrous acid formation can be reduced. So only when the nitrous acid is formed, it can react with the dimethylamine. So we add ascorbates or the erythrobates or tocopherols. So this will help in the fast conversion of nitrites to nitric oxides, and the nitric oxide can combine with the myoglobin, and it form nitric oxide myoglobin, and the nitric oxide myoglobin on eating it form nitrosyl hemochromogen. So what we can do is whenever you add the nitrites or the nitrates, along with that you add sodium ascorbates, so the nitrous acid formation can be reduced. So there are many research articles shows that when you add sodium ascorbates at 550 ppm along with 120 ppm sodium nitrite in cured bacon, it will help to reduce the nitrosamine formation. Another thing is that if you add potassium sorbate 0.26% plus 80 ppm of sodium nitrate in cured ham, also showed that there is a reduction in the nitrosamine formation. The salt coated with the alpha tocopherol can also be used to reduce the nitrosamine formations. So this ascorbates and erythrobates and alpha tocopherols will act as a blocking agent to prevent the formation of nitrous acids. So the basic thing is that the nitrous acid formation should be prevented. The formation of nitrous acid should be prevented. So for that one, we had the sodium ascorbates and potassium sorbate or alpha tocopherols. So this will act as a blocking agent and it prevents the formation of nitrous acids. So the nitrite will be immediately get converted into nitric oxides and the further reactions will be taking place. So the dimethyl nitrosamines formation can be reduced. There's another condition called as nitrite burns. When this will occur? So if the concentration of the nitrates or the concentration of the nitrate that we had to the meat, if it is more than 300 ppm, that is 300 milligram per kg meat if you had, and this reaction is more prominent if you had more than 600 milligram per kg, and at a higher pH of the meat, and a lower pH of the meat, there is a green brown color formation will be there. So this is called as a nitrite burn. Why it is formed? It is due to the formation of the pigment called as nitrimethmyoglobin or nitrihemin. Okay, this is the compound that is formed which gives the green brown color to the meat. So it is normally seen at a low pH, higher concentration or the higher addition of nitrates will lead to this type of problem. So how it can be differentiated from the bacterial spoilage? In the bacterial spoilage there will be slime formation can be there sometimes. It gives a bad smell. Like here we don't find any bad smell or slime formations will not be there. Here only the color changes will be there. So this is because of the high nitrate concentration, that is above 300 ppm, and it is very prominent more than above 600 ppm. So that leads to the nitrite burn conditions in the cured meat products. So what is the level permitted for residual nitrate? That is, there are two types things we can say. One is the added nitrites and the residual nitrate. Residual nitrate means the nitrate that is left after the curing. Okay, that is called as a residual nitrite. So here in the comminuted or the ground meat products, it should not be more than 200 ppm, and in the cured ham it should not be more than 156 ppm, and in the bacon we should not add more than 120 ppm. So you may think why there is a variation, because the difference in the cooking methods. When you are subjecting to the high temperature, there is a more chance for nitrosamine formations. So in the bacons, normally we cook to high temperature. Cured ham compared to less. Ground meat or the ground meat products or the comminuted meat products still lower temperature. So that is why we find that levels is varying for different types of products. So in the comminuted and the ground meat, it is less than 200 ppm. In the cured ham, it is less than 156 ppm. In the bacon, it is less than 120 ppm. And the nitrate level, the residual nitrate level should be less than 500 ppm. And the permitted level of nitrosamines is 0.017 ppm. So this is very important from the exam point of view also. We should learn these levels. So thank you very much for listening. And in the next lecture, we will be covering about the methods of curing or different methods of curing. I'll be talking. If you have any doubt, you can contact me in this mobile numbers, and or you can send me mail. I also put lot in the YouTube, Dr. Sadhu Meat Tech. You can also refer if you are more interested. You can also refer that one. Thank you very much. Take care. God bless you all.